I'm going to tell you not some stories, I'm going to tell you one story. And you're going to be pictures that you're going to get to see with it too, and it's about, about tailors and carpenters, but it's really about a blacksmith. It's really about the blacksmith, and it's about the king. I always want to tell stories about the king because he's a pretty good man. And then I'll tell you about how important the blacksmithing, and the other trades too, but about the blacksmith. Blacksmithing has long been known as the king of the trades. There's an old English tale that it tells how a king once decreed that he'd make that craftsman king of the trades who could get along best without the help of the others for the longest time. So he gave a great feast for practitioners of each of the trades, and he told each craftsman to bring his best piece of work. Well, the night of the big banquet, everyone was anxiously awaiting the king's decision. The potter brought a beautifully glazed jug. The weaver brought a many-colored tapestry. The carpenter brought a finely carved table. The tailor brought a beautiful coat with incredibly fine stitching. And then the blacksmith brought a pair of tongs that he had fashioned with a hammer, anvil, fire. Now it happened that the tailor's beautiful coat completely blinded the entire assembly to the work of the other craftsmen, and the king then proclaimed the tailor to be the king of the trades. When the blacksmith heard this, he became quite angry, and he stormed out of the banquet, closed and locked the door to his own shop, and he went on a long fishing trip. For a while, all went well. No one missed the blacksmith. One day, though, the king needed a shoe for his horse, and there was no one to make it. Then the tailor broke his shears, and then the carpenter needed a new blade for her plane. Soon, none of the tradesmen in the kingdom could work because their tools were broken. So the craftsmen and the king got together, and they decided that they would fix the tools themselves. However, they were completely unfamiliar with how the blacksmith made things out of iron. They made a mess of things in the blacksmith shop. They fell over each other. They burned their fingers. They singed their beards and smashed their hands. Finally, they decided they'd had enough when one of them managed to knock the anvil over into a tub of water, drenching them all in an icy, cold bath. Just then, the blacksmith appeared in the shop. By now, his own anger had cooled, and he quickly made all the necessary repairs on all the tools. The king and the craftsman both realized their mistake and promptly made blacksmithing the king of the trades.
This sentiment as to the importance of blacksmithing was expressed not only in this tale, but also in the motto of the London Guild of Blacksmiths, Whitesmiths, and Nailers over 500 years ago: by hammer and hand, all arts do stand. When America was settled, the blacksmith maintained this place of importance in the early communities. It was still true that the smith was needed to keep the tools of the other trades repaired and to shoe the horses, mules, and oxen in the community. In the southern mountains, the smith was a very necessary member of a community. Farmers needed horses shod, tools repaired, and hardware made. Other people in the neighborhood needed cookware, traps, gun parts, mining picks, and 1,000 other things. With the advent of the motor car, tractor, and the electric welder, the smith had to find other ways to make a living. This was the pattern throughout all of the country. Many old-time smithies became welding shops and auto repair garages in an effort to keep up with the changing times. The southern mountains, which had for so long been considered a cultural backwater, now became one of the mainstreams of a crafts revival. The automobile, which had spelled doom for so many blacksmiths, was an opportunity for Daniel Boone VI of Burnsville, North Carolina. During the 1920s and 30s, automobiles brought tourists into the mountains, and tourists brought money. Money to buy souvenirs like fire sets and railings for their new vacation home. Boone's legacy continues today through the ironwork of his former apprentice, B. Hensley of Spruce Pine, North Carolina. B. continued the tradition by teaching the hammer language as it was taught to him to his son Mike.
Well, Mike and I were hammering on the anvil. Mike is the apprentice, and he portrays the apprentice on this side, and I'll be the master on this side. And we start hammering. It sounds like we're playing a tune, and really, to a certain extent, we are, because we have to keep in time with each other. And when I hammer on this side, why, he knows we're flaring a fishtail on this side or this side. Now, when I come off and hit this here or here or here, he knows what position to put his hammer on this side to make the metal flow this way. When I come off over here like this, that tells him to come on this side, how to turn his hammer and how hard to hit to make it flow this way. Now when I come through, I'm hitting one specific place here to show him where to hit. And if we're hammering continuously like this, well, I'm telling him what quadrant of the face of the hammer to turn like that to hit it, to make it flare this way or this way. Now, when I'm coming just playing around here on the anvil, he's working this right in here to make it flare for a fish tail like this is here. Then, when we're both hammering like this, I'm telling him exactly what spot to hit in here to make it draw or flare, and what quadrant of the face of the hammer right here to hit to make that turn, to make this come out this way or go this way. Or if I'm going backwards and forwards, why then he knows to draw it longer.
During the heyday of the logging boom, Boone and B were called upon to make J-grabs, a specialized logging tool that was essential when hauling timber down steep grades. You ready?
Okay, now in using this part right here is what they call the J-bar. And the J-bar wants to fit so that this ring right here will pull this down till it won't roll like that. And you start that right there, and you set your grab like that right there. That goes in front of your lock. Then you set this up just like that. You bring this grab up and set the heel of it like that. Then as you drive that in, that tightens that, and see it won't roll, won't turn. And so you drive your grabs up. Then this hook is made with a counterbalance to pull on this side. Now I'm going to go around to this side. Now we're going to this is called a J-bar, and the team of horses is out here. You put this on like this, and you pull this down the mountain, and when you tell the team to J, they know what that is. This simply falls back, and this counterweight pulls like that. Comes right back to a point right in there like that, and comes over and falls off, and your team goes over that way. Now, if you're going to reverse that and J on this side, you just simply pull that. Now, right here is one of the tricks. You notice how this ring pulls right by the side of this right here, so that when it slips backwards, it kicks it off. And you J. That's a curiosity to see that work.
Blacksmithing today is a viable craft that has experienced a rebirth throughout the country. This was largely due to the work of one man, Francis Whitaker, who has conducted workshops at the Campbell Folk School in Brasstown, North Carolina, over the past 15 years, instructing smiths from all over.
Let me give you some principles about tongs. The strength of the tongs is right here and right here. You've already got that too flat.
Too thin.
Too thin. This jaw should be tapered.
Okay.
The eye should be forged flat. This should be tapered the opposite way.
Okay.
It looks good from here. Now turn it on the flat, on the anvil. Knock the punch out. Can you see from the other side? Get a good hold on it. That way a little. Turn it on its side. Back over the hardy hole. Much better, isn't it?
Much better.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how many steps there were involved.
I know. That's because you can't put everything in a book. As long as I can do it, I'll keep it up. I'm 85, but there's still some life left.
A blacksmith practicing the trade today is more likely to be making a railing than sharpening a plow point. Something else is different in the trade too, and that is Longfellow's image of the mighty man with brawny arms. Today there are smiths like Paige Davis and Elizabeth Brim who continue a long craft tradition here in North Carolina. Elizabeth Brim, who teaches art at a college in Georgia, enjoys returning to the Penland School where she originally learned blacksmithing.
What do you mostly make other than snakes?
Silly things.
What are silly things?
I made a pair of iron high heel shoes one time, and I always have in the back of my head I'm gonna make some more because I like to make some with a little bow on the toe. And I made some iron hair ribbons, and I made an apron with chiseled lace and gathered here, and the sash is hinged so it flops back and forth. That's another thing I'd like to make another one because I neglected to put a pocket on it. So I'd like to make another apron sometime, maybe a series of different types. And it's kind of started to be like the female type stuff. You know, like the high heels and the apron and the bow ties and hair ribbons. And when I first started getting interested in blacksmithing, my mother said, I just don't think that's a very ladylike thing to do. You just have to wear pearls when you blacksmith, and then you'll be very ladylike. So it's just gotten to be kind of a thing. And now, if I have on my overalls and my boots and I don't have on my pearls, people want to know where they are.
Now we join Paige in her studio at Bakersville, North Carolina.
When I'm creating a piece, say these weather women, you know, it's almost as though I am working with. Well, you'll see that. I mean, the weather women are fairly flat pieces and kind of line drawings, but it's almost as though I get a silhouette in my head. Definitely, my reference has been personal in that. You know, people say, "Oh, well, these are self-portraits," and what other model do you have? Unless you really have a model, then what's coming out of your head, which is usually going to be your own face. So that's, yeah, it's not real intentional, but it's certainly there, and the feeling is there. Each one is becoming a different mood, or whether it's a storm or a cloudless day or whatever it is. I think moods and weather go together. But she's also, I feel like she's kind of watching the atmosphere and the ozone and what's going on up there. And that's another theme for me behind her, is just, this woman can see the air, and it's pretty terrifying to her what she's seeing out there.
Rather than dying out, blacksmithing continues in the mountains of North Carolina as a vibrant craft. Smiths express their ideas in the flowing sculptural forms that iron is capable of taking on. The tools may differ from those of a century ago. The fire may come from a gas forge rather than coal or charcoal. The results remain the same, however. Form and often function blending together in a harmonious fusion, shaped with hammer, anvil, fire, and mind.